Summer, I had the opportunity to go to England for a few weeks. Alright, stay with me. A friend of mine said that I could stay at her house while I was there, and she went away for a few days. And I had this one day where I had nothing planned, and it was just going to be perfect. I was just going to sit out in the garden, enjoy the weather, and was really looking forward to this day of solitude. And I happened to run into my friend's neighbor, whom I'd met on several occasions over the years. And we got to talking about what we've been doing. And she said, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And I said, "Nothing. I'm actually just relaxing." And she said, "Well, if you want to come along, we're having a party, a picnic at the park down the road, and we're going to have great food and Pimm's. And Pimm's is just lovely. Yes, as you know, Pimm's is a lovely quintessential English beverage for the summer." And I said, "Okay, that's great. I'll come along." So 1 o'clock, I met her outside. It was wonderful. Jumped in the car. We drove to the park. And when we arrived, several other cars arrived at the same time. And we all got out. And then there was just a big kerfuffle about whether we were going to stay at that part of the park or drive to another part. And in the end, everyone decided that we would go to the other section of the park. So everybody jumped back in their cars. And as we did this, I kind of thought, that's strange. She didn't introduce me to anyone, but maybe it was just all the kerfuffle. So I'm sure she'll do it when we get to the other part of the park. So we all got to the other section, got everything out, got everything organized, put the canopy up, and got all the food out, and she never introduced me to anyone the whole day. So I was at this party for sort of 2.5 or 3 hours, and she never introduced me to anyone. So I'm not a shy person, so I did introduce myself to people, and I spoke, but I did think, how uncomfortable is that? I mean, and the other people were kind of wondering, who is she? What is she doing here? And I did kind of think, why didn't she introduce me? And I'm sure the thought just never crossed her mind. She was obviously a friendly person. She invited me to the party, but the thought just never crossed her mind. So it is actually just polite for the mutual acquaintance to introduce 2 or more strangers. It's polite, it's good manners. Another reason to introduce people is because when somebody comes up to join your conversation, they might feel awkward or they don't want to interrupt because they're thinking, oh, you're in the middle of a conversation. I'll wait for a little break. So it's always nice once you kind of finish your sentence to introduce the other person. And another reason is if you're actually a host or a hostess of an event, then it's actually your job, your duty to introduce people. Now I would suggest to not worry about the rules. A lot of people are worried about etiquette rules, they don't know what they are, and that's why they don't introduce people to other people. I am here today to suggest that you not worry about the big Emily Post book that's 500 pages. The best thing to do is, as Nike says, just do it. So just say, John, I would like you to meet Michael. Michael, this is John. If you suspect that they might already know each other, but you're not sure, just simply say, John, have you met Michael? He's our new neighbor. And they might say, oh, yes, we've already met. Well, that's great. And they might say, no, we haven't met. And in which case you say, okay, cool. So if you're not sure, just do it anyway. Another point to remember is to try and have a little bit of a conversation starter. So you could say, Lisa, this is Donald. Donald, this is Lisa. Lisa just moved in down the road, and she's planted these beautiful rose bushes, and her yard just looks wonderful. And there you have a little bit of a conversation starter. Oh, you're a gardener. say, no, I got somebody to do it. Donald, this is George. George is the new accountant at XYZ company, and the conversation goes. Now, if you are having a really interesting conversation with someone, and somebody comes up, and you don't want to ignore the person, but you don't want to leave your conversation either, then you simply introduce the people, and then say, Donald, we were just discussing the new restaurant that's opening up on Franklin Street, and then you carry on with your conversation. So you still introduce the person, but you can still carry on with the very important conversation that you are having. Now, when, and I'm not saying if, when you forget someone's name, don't try to get around it. Just go ahead and say, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. Ah, George, right. And just carry on with the conversation. Don't try to manipulate the conversation around, or perhaps, say, and how do you spell your name? I've done on occasion and gotten the answer, S-U-E. And if you are the person that is not introduced, go ahead and introduce yourself, because the people that you're with might not know how to do it, or they might feel awkward, but just go ahead and do it yourself. Oh, I'm Nicole Stewart, it's nice to meet you. Now, I did have a good experience about a year ago. I met a new friend, and she invited me to her Christmas party, and my husband and I arrived, and we didn't know anyone, and she introduced us to everybody at her house, and we were there for 3 hours, and we had conversation, and great food and drink, and it was just a great time, and it just makes all the difference when you're welcome and people introduce you. So the main purpose of introducing people to other people is to make them feel welcome. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you.